Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jeanette Rosenbaum, the Vice Chair of the Gaithersburg Environmental Affairs Committee, and I will be your moderator for tonight's panel discussion on the film 2040, an exercise in fact-based dreaming about the environment and the future of sustainability. I am so excited to get to talk to some people about this film. And especially, I'm excited to talk to some environmental leaders in our community. Let's meet the panelists in the order that I first met them. Deb Moran became the Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Gaithersburg in August of 2019. She found her passion for sustainability while in college, when she stumbled into an opportunity to build biodigesters on farms. Before joining city staff, her title was Professional Trash Talker at a Baltimore-based sustainability consulting firm. Judd Ashman has been the mayor of Gaithersburg for 6 years and served as a council member for 7 years before that. During that time, he's worked to increase energy efficiency, expand and upgrade parks, and protect the health of our local streams and rivers. Luis Furman is a lifelong nature lover and Montgomery County resident and has lived in Gaithersburg with his wife and 3 children for the past 8 years. Earlier this year, he was nominated to the board of the Muddy Branch Alliance and was honored to be elected president upon entry into the organization. Hayden Sandlin became the junior mayor of Gaithersburg after his teacher encouraged him to apply for the position by writing an essay on how Gaithersburg can become more environmentally friendly. Since taking office in April, he's had lots of exciting experiences, including meeting an influential author and uncovering a really cool park. Anna Feller is a senior and member of the Environmental Club at Quince Orchard High School. Her goal is to conduct field research to study how human actions influence climate change and how that in turn impacts marine ecosystems. One more note before we get to the questions. A little bit later on, we will be taking questions from the audience. You can send in your questions anytime during the discussion by just typing them in the comments area below the video. Please go ahead and do that. All right, let's get to it. Mayor Ashman, because this film is all about having hope for the future based on solutions that already exist today, I'd like to start out with some good news. What idea in the film is already happening in Gaithersburg, or what is closest to being reality in our city? How were we able to start making that positive change?
So first off, I want to thank you, Jeanette, and the entire Environmental Affairs Committee for putting on this event and for inviting me to be a part of it. I'm so excited to be part of this panel. You guys are awesome, and it's really an honor for me to be on this with you. I thought the film was really well put together, and it certainly made an impact on me. So to your question, at least some element, some building block of almost everything covered in this film is germinating in our community. For example, while we're not quite at the working microgrid level, there are many, many households that have installed solar panels and rely at least partially on solar energy. So we have some of that infrastructure in place. Also, in the past few years, we've seen exponential growth in the number of electric cars. And by the way, I think it's such a clever idea by some of our retail centers to put in charging stations to accommodate them, because it gets people to come there, charge their cars, and do some shopping. Our renovate gardens and do a bit of that sort of hyper-local food production. Of course, Gaithersburg has been a tree city for the better part of 4 decades. We have more tree canopy now than we did even before all the development that has occurred here since the 1970s. Due to state law, Maryland residents have been able to choose to utilize wind energy or purchase offsets that support the development of wind energy for quite some time. So I think the foundations for these ideas have been laid here. Expect our community and more broadly our state to be an early adopter of things like microgrids and driverless cars. In fact, over the past 10 years, our city's been reducing parking requirements for new developments, which provides more opportunities for green space and other uses, is an idea that the film touched on. I should note that my favorite idea from this film was marine permaculture, the regeneration of these huge brown seaweed forests, which It's great for marine life, and it's a renewable food source, and it helps remove carbon from the atmosphere, which is win-win-win. Unfortunately, the bad news is we have no ocean near us in Gaithersburg. So it's not our city's destiny to be the leader on that front. We're just going to have to root for them from the sidelines. But I'd say there's great reason for optimism here in Gaithersburg.
Well, great, thanks. Deb, from where you stand as a sustainability coordinator of Gaithersburg, what idea do you think is next in line? As the film said, the problems are urgent and we need to start implementing the solutions today. So what's a potential quick win in our city? Which idea in the film could become reality in Gaithersburg if everybody listening in tonight started taking simple action and encouraged all their friends to do the same?
Well, that's a great question. I think that the one portion of the film that most stood out to me also had to do with the energy and the microgrid that Chad was mentioning earlier. So building energy consumption is the #1 contributor to greenhouse gas emissions in the city of Gaithersburg, and that's split pretty evenly between residential and commercial buildings. So I personally can't have solar panels on my house because I have so much tree canopy cover. So what I do instead is, again, as Jed mentioned, I purchase wind energy. And I don't know a lot of people are aware of this, but Maryland is a choice energy state. So you can pick whatever kind of energy you want to pay for, and you don't have to go through your utility. Your utility will still pay the bill, but you can choose, again, if you have the funds, to use some wind energy. But one thing that I also want to touch upon is it's really great to have all these renewable energy sources, but our consumption of energy, our energy demand is still really high. So while we increase the amount of energy, renewable energy that we make, we want to kind of try to bring down the amount of energy demand that we have. So I just wanted to touch on a couple of my favorite resources that we have available to us in Montgomery County. So Montgomery County Public Library will loan out thermal cameras. So you can walk around your house and see all these fun images of like where maybe more at this time of year, where more cold air is coming in, and kind of identify some of your energy hotspots. Pepco is doing now virtual home energy audits. So you can do that without having anybody come in your home, and they'll walk around your house with you virtually and help you identify some areas for energy reduction and improvement. And I think they also send you a kit of tools that you can use after that. And then anybody who pays their electric bill pays into what's called the Empower Maryland Fund. And the Empower Maryland Fund funds rebates for any sort of energy efficiency projects that you may do. So you can look on the website, on your utility provider's website, to get more information about that. And this and a whole slew of other initiatives are all available on Montgomery County Energy Connection, or you can email me and I can provide you with some resources. And then just one last tip about energy is if you have someone who's difficult to buy a gift for, I heard smart thermostats were the way to go this year.
Yeah, I had one of those virtual home energy audits and it was pretty great. I have some better insulation now. I think it costs less than $5. So definitely worth checking out. It's amazing to hear about all this progress we're already making. These are great reasons for hope. But because the film is also very much about being realistic, I want to ask Luis now about some obstacles to implementing the ideas shown in the movie. And this is the one I particularly want to ask about. The first segment of the film shows that in Bangladesh, one of the poorest countries in the world, most households have a solar energy system. In America, one of the wealthiest countries, progress on installing solar is very slow. And as we mentioned, we don't have microgrids for a variety of reasons, but one reason is because traditional utility companies don't really want their customers to be able to produce their own power. How can a capitalist country like the United States begin to transition to a system of community-produced energy?
Wow, that's a good question. I think what all of this comes down to, while we are a capitalist country, we're also, we are a much more democratic country than many others. And, along with that comes the identity as a as a citizen, and the responsibility that comes with that is, being educated on the matters. I think that if we were to get, I think that that's certainly achievable. It's a matter of, finding ways to teach people why these things are important. For me, a big deal is for everything that revolves around, trying to do better for the earth, trying to kind of heal a lot of the damage that kind of our contemporary way of living has done, is to get people out into nature. And in my mind, what that does is builds a connection. And just like you build a connection to a new pet, for instance, you start developing a sense of compassion that you may not have had prior. And so with that compassion comes, the desire to help the situation. And so I think it really is educating people of kind of all backgrounds as to like the need and what the need is, and the solutions, like what have been presented in this movie, the possible solutions that already exist that can be implemented.
Yeah, that's a really good point about connection to nature. I think a lot of people have discovered that this year.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw in a more open-ended question now. And in the spirit of focusing on young people and their hopes, this one is for Junior Mayor Sandlin. In the movie, we met lots of kids and heard about their ideas for the future. They thought that in the next 20 years, we should do things like stop pollution, plant more trees, produce less stuff, switch to electric cars, and eat healthier food. What do you think 2040 should look like? And what should adults in Gaithersburg be doing right now to make that happen?
That's a great question. And I think that collectively, as a community, we should start by actively educating ourselves, including adults, on the subject of climate change. We could all further our knowledge of how to decrease carbon emissions, as well as participate in daily routines that can create a better future, and elect public officials who support environmental efforts. And I believe that that's a crucial first step in ridding the effects of climate change, because there's a lot of people who are unaware of the ongoing harm to the environment. Adults, especially parents, need to support school and community programs that help educate children. The film we're discussing could be part of such a program. I also think that everybody, myself included, could always set reminders and goals on how to make a change in a small, everyday sense. This starts in the family, with our parents and with us making a conscious effort to recycle and to conserve energy and water. Everyone's effort counts.
Yeah, that's a really good point about education. Do you know if any of your classmates watched this movie?
I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure maybe some of them would be interested, but as far as that goes, maybe not.
What do you say, Deb? Can you get us the rights to show this film in all the schools in Gaithersburg?
I can sure try.
All right. You did a pretty awesome job negotiating to get us the premiere. We appreciate it so much. I want to pose a similar question to our other youth panelist. Near the beginning of the film, the host says, "The earth is our collective home that we're actually renting from future generations." You might have heard an idea like this before, that grown-ups are borrowing the earth from kids and should give it back in good condition. But so far, Anna, grown-ups aren't taking very good care of your planet. What do you think adults should do to clean this place up before they give it back to you?
First off, I completely agree that we are only renting Earth for future generations. The list is vast when it comes to adults, what adults should do to clean up our home before leaving, and how to better prepare it for future generations. For example, many children rely on their parents for meals, and in turn, parents often dictate the type of food children grow up eating. So that being said, if adults could practice more vegetarian or environmentally friendly diet from the start, then future generations will already be accustomed to eating foods that are healthier both for us and for the environment. Furthermore, adults should also encourage efficient transportation. One way adults could do this is by having their child or children participate in carpools or use public transportation. That would significantly help reduce the emissions that we in Gaithersburg, the entire earth really, is producing through transportation. Adults also influence how we manage our natural resources. So converting to more efficient sources of electricity, like we were talking about with solar energy and wind energy, or lessening food waste and restricting water usage, like to shut off the sink while you're brushing your teeth, or those 20 seconds while you're washing your hands. Those small things like that really limit the amount of water we're using. And all of those will help with future generations being more mindful and respectful to our collective home, planet Earth. And these are just a few examples of what adults should do to clean this place up before they give it back. I encourage you, everyone out here listening in tonight, to ask yourselves the same question and see where your mind takes you. That being said, we're all in this together. This is our home, our earth, and we have to protect it for future generations.
Wow, thank you. Mayor Ashman, are you taking notes? Sounds like we have a lot of work to do.
I'm taking notes and also somewhat scared for my job when they get old enough to run.
Yeah. Maybe some of our audience will tell us some more things in the chat that the grown-ups should be doing.
Maybe indeed.
Luis, I'd like to ask you to respond to our youth and tell them what the adults are doing. Definitely grown-ups are doing some good things in Gaithersburg. For example, the Muddy Branch Alliance is working to restore native plants and protect water quality. What else do you see that's getting done in Gaithersburg? And how can we do more to amplify the accomplishments of those who are already doing all the right things?
Yeah, we do have a few organizations like the Muddy Branch Alliance. We have the Seneca Creek Watershed Partners, and we kind of take it, it's volunteer programs where we take it upon ourselves to be stewards of our respective watersheds. So that includes trash pickups, that includes Weed Warrior events. Weed Warriors are a Montgomery County volunteer organization who specialize in invasive plant species removal. So these are some volunteer opportunities that are also happening. I took a moment to look on the city's website as well to see what the city had been doing, because I thought about it and I was like, I don't know specifically. I know a few things, like I knew the city has had tree city status for a while. I think the city is either achieved or working on the 10-minute walk city status, where most residents in the city are within a 10-minute walk from a green space, from a park, which is really great. Some other things I found though were there's Rainscapes reward programs to try and stem the amount of stormwater runoff that makes it into our streams, which it's when we talk about kind of new developments and new roads, putting down more concrete, when it rains, the water, right, is getting going straight down into our waterways, as opposed to getting sucked up by plants that would be in that space. So what these efforts do is kind of stem the amount of water flow that would eventually cause, that does cause a lot of erosion in our streams. I noticed that there was also, city had an effort to curb the ash borer prevalence, which is an invasive beetle that has kind of taken the country by storm and killed untold amounts of ash trees. And so some of the things that the city has done are diversifying what kind of trees are being planted, so that we're able to kind of keep our tree population at a healthier level. So I thought that was pretty cool that these initiatives were being taken. As far as amplifying the accomplishments of people that are kind of in this realm and doing these things, I think kind of the city providing platforms to kind of help raise awareness to different efforts and organizations as well, or continuing to do so, I should say. And kind of trying to bolster education on environmental matters, to whatever extent is possible. I think again, education and connectivity to nature is key to getting people out and getting people to care more and want to spend the mental energy on trying to, work on these issues.
Yeah, we have to educate the grown-ups too, for sure.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Hayden and Anna, what do you think about what the grown-ups are doing so far? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Thumbs up? 2 thumbs up. Wow. All right. Good job, grown-ups. We are doing awesome. All right. Mayor Judd, can you tell us about how we manage to be awesome? How do good things get done in an organized, strategic way in Gaithersburg, instead of just because a group of really committed people come together and decide to do something? How do city leaders in Gaithersburg make sure that environmentally responsible decisions are being made?
Well, first, I want to just push back a little bit. Don't underestimate the power of a small group of really committed people. A lot of humankind's greatest achievements can be traced back to small groups of people who felt really passionately about something and were able to successfully persuade everybody around them. And I say that, Jeanette, thinking about the Environmental Affairs Committee, a small group of very committed people have made a tremendous impact in the city of Gaithersburg. But you continue that momentum by sort of building an organizational culture. I think it's fair to say that both within city staff, led by Deb, our professional trash talker. I'm gonna use that because I've fancied myself an amateur trash talker for a lot of years. So I'm gonna have to bond with her about that. But both within city staff and within elected leadership, all the council members, really, everybody in senior leadership in the city, there's a living, breathing pro-environment culture in Gaithersburg. I mean, first off, we put together a strategic plan every year. There's a whole section of it that's dedicated to sustainability. Out of that framework has come a regulatory system that requires green building standards of both commercial and residential buildings, and we apply it to our own buildings as well. We may have been the first city in all the United States to have those requirements for both commercial and residential. I know it was around 2007, 08, when we were touting that and we were going to National League of Cities, and we couldn't find any other city that was doing that at that time. We have a reforestation policy, and if you take down a tree, you got to replace it, hence the Tree City designation. We've invested a lot in the upkeep of our stream system and our stormwater facilities. We pay attention to our energy consumption, as Deb mentioned, and try to keep it in check and reduce our carbon footprint. As you know, as the Environmental Affairs Committee knows, maybe not everybody in the public knows, we just opted into the Healthy Lawns law from the county. While we've had a recycling program for decades, more recently we've been piloting a composting program. So there's a culture here. I mean, we have every year getting texts from Councilmember Sesma, who's really a passionate environmental advocate and wants to give a shout out to the environmental awards that we do each year to businesses and organizations to support their efforts. But there's a culture here, but doesn't mean we can't do better. And that's where we're so lucky to have you, Jeanette, and your colleagues who volunteer to serve on our Environmental Affairs Committee. The members of the council and I and our staff know that we don't have all the answers ourselves like everyone else. We can't see every angle all the time. We have blind spots, so it's incredibly helpful to have that group of truly committed people by our side who are constantly on the lookout for new and innovative ways we can do things better. And so let me just put out this little plug here. I'd invite any of our viewers who might be interested in this topic to take a look at the Environmental Affairs Committee and maybe drop in on our next virtual meeting and see if you might be interested in joining. But I'd be remiss if I did not also give a shout out to our youth leaders like Hayden and Anna, who are inspiring the bejesus out of me tonight, and who not only advocate for their ideas, but they remind us of the imperative to make the world a better place, because we're going to be handing that baton to them. So all of us contribute to the culture here in Gaithersburg, and I think there's a lot to be proud of, and it's that culture, it's all of us working together that ensures that we keep making progress.
Well, thanks for that plug. Deb, when is our next Environmental Affairs Committee meeting? Isn't it next Tuesday?
It is next Tuesday at 7 p.m. and you can register to attend virtually on the city's website, gaithersburgmd.gov.
Awesome. Thank you, staff liaison. So it's definitely true that committed people and enthusiastic leaders from all walks of life are important for getting things started. But we also really need everybody to get involved in bringing about these solutions that are mentioned in the film and that we've been talking about tonight. So I have a question for Deb about how we can do that. While watching the film, I was really struck by the contrast between the scale of the problem and the speed of some of the solutions. In one scene, the host talks about how hard it is to get out of our current unsustainable system, to consume less fossil fuels or produce less waste, and how paralyzed we feel by this sense that things are seriously wrong, but we can't do anything about it. But on the other hand, the film shows how putting plants in the ground can make a visible difference for soil health and carbon sequestration in just 3 months, while some kinds of seaweed, as we mentioned earlier, can grow 1.5 feet a day, capturing carbon and producing food, fertilizer, and biofuel in the process. How can we get past the paralysis and start implementing these solutions that could make such a big difference so quickly?
So there's a lot there, so I'll try to answer all of that to the best of my ability. But I do want to note, first and foremost, the comment about paralysis. So climate anxiety is officially a recognized thing by the American Psychological Association. So they understand that there is a real chronic fear of environmental doom that does affect some people. And we actually recently posted an article or made an article about it, and I believe they'll put the comments, a link to that article in the chat box below. So we just want to recognize that it is not only, our sociological issues and our environmental issues, but it also can have some mental health impacts that cause us to be a little scared to act. But the best thing that we can do, or my favorite thing to do, is remember that sustainability is interconnected with everything that we do. So we've mentioned a couple of times during this discussion about education, but just education about environmentalism in and of itself is great. But beyond that, educating just women in general or people of underprivileged communities, reducing the amount of inequality in the world can really have a major impact in the success and the health of our environment moving forward. So if we just kind of look at things with a more sustainability lens and everything that we do, we can really achieve a lot more success. In terms of actually, big picture actions, I think we need to think a little bit more about what our actual goal is. And when we want to achieve that goal by. So once we have a goal and a date that we want to achieve that goal by, we can figure out what the plan is and what the steps are, and then we take the action and we get there. And so I think as a community, really understanding what our goal is and should be will be how we drive action moving forward. I know Montgomery County is getting ready to share their climate action plan. I'm sure there's a lot of lessons we can learn from that. You can provide comments for that plan now on their website, which I don't have off the top of my head, but I'll make sure to provide in the comments. But maybe we look at adapting that for the city of Gaithersburg or making kind of an investment in a climate action plan of our own.
Yeah. So I was involved in the climate action plan too. That has been a massive effort, and I'm so excited that our county is a leader on this. First jurisdiction in the Western Hemisphere to declare climate emergency, is that right? Awesome, way to go, Montgomery County. All right, I'd like to move now to some questions from the audience. If you haven't sent in your question yet, or if you've thought of another one, please go ahead and type it in the comments area below the video. And while folks are typing their questions, here is a lightning round for our panel. Very quickly, and going in order from youngest to oldest, What's a cool thing about the environment that you want everyone listening tonight to know? Junior Mayor Sandlin, can you start us off?
So, climate is like a big baby. If you feed it things that it doesn't appreciate, then it will start to develop a big tantrum that will thrash to the ground fiercely. But if you feed it things that it's really passionate and very appreciative of, then it'll stay back and it'll be calm.
Anna, can you tell us a cool fact?
Yeah, so over 1 million marine organisms, including marine animals and birds, are killed each year due to plastic pollution.
Oh, well, that's a little depressing. Deb, what's your cool fact?
My favorite fact is that fungi is actually more closely related to people than it is to plants. It's more animal than plant, and it's used to clean up oil spills.
Wow, really? Oh, that's awesome. Louise, tell us a cool fact.
My cool fact is that there are hundreds of local edible plants that grow right around us that can be learned about, and yeah, I thought that was really cool as I've been learning about it. Like literally hundreds of plants that you see every day. Different parts of them are edible. So.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite one?
Well, I haven't tried hundreds and hundreds of them. I've only tried a handful so far. I'm kind of new in this game, but this past summer, back in June, is when late June actually is when wineberries produce their berries. They are invasive, which is unfortunate. However, they produce delicious raspberry relative, and I made a whole pie out of it. And it was first pie I ever made. It was a great pie.
Wow, best use of invasive plants.
Yeah,
garlic mustard is also very delicious. I enjoy eating that. My turn. My cool fact: the trend of climate change has been so strong over the past few decades that if you are younger than about 35. You have never experienced a colder than average month on planet Earth. When I first heard that fact, it really brought home to me that people my age and younger are truly living in different times than earlier generations. And now, Mayor Judd, can you tell us one more cool fact?
That's an amazing fact, and actually, I want to cheat and just add one more thing to my previous answer about the culture here in Gaithersburg, and that is how important the Muddy Branch Alliance is. I was remiss, Luis, not to give some kudos to Muddy Branch Alliance, because as an outside nonprofit, you guys have had a really strong, demonstrable impact on policy and the way that we in the city think about things. So we appreciate you, and I should have included you guys in the previous answer. So know that. So I sort of took this as like a one cool thing, and as opposed to a specific fact, I wanted to recommend another film. If you get a chance to see, whoever's watching this hasn't seen 2040, by all means do. One you might have easier to see is it's called My Octopus Teacher. It's on Netflix, and it is a beautiful documentary about a filmmaker who free dives, without an oxygen tank, around a kelp forest off the coast of South Africa, and he cultivates an unlikely friendship with an octopus. It is beautiful and heartwarming, but I also learned much about the life of an octopus and the importance of the kelp forest while watching it. So I highly recommend go find My Octopus Teacher on Netflix.
Great, thank you for that. And now I see you've got lots of questions coming in from our audience. So I think I'm going to start with one that's kind of a loaded question. And I guess I'll direct this one to Mayor Ashman. What do you think about banning single-use plastics like straws in Montgomery County or in Gaithersburg?
Well, first off, that probably would have, from a legal standpoint, would probably have to be done at the state level. It definitely couldn't originate at the city level, but I'm not sure about whether it could originate at the county level. What do I think about it? I certainly think I can see the value in it. definitely want to see the cost benefit as a policymaker. I'd want to see the cost benefit, but I generally like the idea. We were one of the early adopters of the ban on polystyrene with styrofoam containers for takeout. And if there was a suitable alternative, as there was with polystyrene, and I'm sure there could be, then it sounds like an idea that's got some merit.
Yeah, I think I'm going to ask this one as a poll question. Raise your hand if you are amazed that so many people are still not paying attention to the climate crisis. I'm going to raise my hand only halfway on this one because surveys do show that the majority of people in Gaithersburg know that climate change is happening and think it is a serious problem and think that we grown-ups should be doing more about it. We are way ahead of this survey is at the county level, actually. So Montgomery County is way ahead of most other counties on caring about climate change and thinking it's a big deal. So thank you, audience, for that question. Here's a technical question. Deb, can you estimate how much it would cost for Gaithersburg to have a solar grid like the one we saw in Bangladesh in the movie? Any guess on that?
I could not make an educated guess on how much that would cost besides a pretty significant amount. If we're talking about the one in Bangladesh, that was much more individual family owned, putting solar panels on buildings. And that can range between, $5,000 per building, depending on the solar array and how big it is. There are a lot of aspects that go into how successful a solar panel will be on your house, having to do with the tilt and which way it's facing. But there are resources available to help you figure out if that's an ideal tool for you. And we do every year have a co-op called Solar United Neighbors. We generally do that in April, where we try to get as many people together as we can to get better pricing for solar panels. So if that's something you're interested in, please feel free to email me, and I can help you find the right resources for that and get you a better idea of how much it would cost. But in terms of all over, I would just be making a wild guess. So I don't want to do that for y'all.
How can people email you? What's your address?
My email address is deborah.moran@gaithersburgmd.gov, and that can be in the comment section below. And if you can't remember that, I also get emails from environment@gaithersburgmd.gov.
Awesome. We were mentioning earlier that we do have already a lot of houses with solar panels in Gaithersburg. Do we know the number or the percentage of houses with solar panels?
We have 415 plus or minus permitted solar panels. So if there's any secret unpermitted ones I don't know about, but.
Okay. This next question I think I'm going to do as another lightning round. Question is, what is one easy change people can make in their daily routine to make a difference for the environment and sustainability? And I think I'll do this one in the order that I see the panelists on my screen. So Deb, you're up first. What can people do?
Unplug the things that they're not using.
One thing I do is I carry a small hand towel with me when I go out in times of not coronavirus. And this way I don't have to use and throw away paper towels in public restrooms. Mayor Ashman, something people can do.
I would point out we could recycle more efficiently and take advantage of our composting within the city. I would expect that we'll expand this program and probably would have done so this year had it not been for the pandemic. But recycling is more efficiently, more things than you currently do would make a big difference.
People should check out the compost center too on Rabbit Road, right next to DPW. It's always open. Anna, can you tell us an easy thing people can do?
Yeah, so I mentioned this earlier, but a really easy thing is shutting off the water when you're not using it. So in the 2 minutes while you're brushing your teeth, you don't need the water running, or the 20 seconds when you're washing your hands. That's a really easy way to save some water.
Great. Hayden, what advice do you have for our audience?
You can use water and beverage pitchers instead of bottled water to generally drink water from. Yeah, like that. And
Oh, I
use
love how we all
water
have our sustainable water bottles with us tonight.
Mhm.
And Luis, one more easy thing people can do.
I would say I'm going to give you a quick two. Follow on social media environmental publications so you, again, can learn more, and then get out into nature. And I'll shove in real quick a third one. Get some of the claws and a bag of trash so when you get out there, you can just pick up litter as you go.
Well, good. That's a perfect segue to the next question, which I'm going to do reverse order lightning round. What is your favorite Gaithersburg park and why? Luis, go.
Oh, well, I mean, right now, I definitely have a bias, but I would have to say it's Muddy Branch. I've been spending a lot of time on it and in it. And while I do appreciate Malcolm King Park because it's literally like my backyard, and it's really great, the natural kind of dirt path of the Muddy Branch and because kind of how thick it is, it's I really do enjoy going on. So,
Hayden, what's the best park in Gaithersburg?
It's actually one that I just recently opened. It's called Discovery Park. I've actually been there once. It's awesome. You should really check it out if you have the time to.
You opened it. Is it new?
Yes, it's pretty new.
Oh.
Approximately 2 months ago, I believe. Around September.
Well, awesome. Everybody should go check out our new park. Anna, what other park should people visit?
I'm going to agree with Luis on this one. I love the Muddy Branch trails. I've been spending a lot of time in it this past summer with everything shut down, and it's beautiful. It's so calming to be out there in nature.
Yeah. Mayor Judd, favorite park?
You know, for a mayor to pick out a favorite park is
I know, right?
kind of like a Sophie's choice. I love all of our parks. I spend a lot of time at Boer Park. I certainly, Constitution Gardens means a lot to me. Discovery Park, which we just opened, means a lot to me. So I'm going to have to punt on this one a little bit because I love all our parks.
Okay, all of them equally. How many are there?
That's a good question. What do we have? Something like 20 parks? It's somewhere in that range.
Okay. My favorite, I think, is not technically a Gaithersburg park, but I'm pretty sure it's in Gaithersburg. It's Seneca Creek State Park. I like that really long trail around the lake. That's pretty great to hike on. And Deb, your favorite park?
I think my favorite park is one that they're thinking about doing because it has so many possibilities. So we're calling it the Consumer Product Safety Site Park, but there's a whole bunch of fun ideas for what it can be. And I'll plug for Parks and Rec. There is a naming virtual survey going on right now. So you can submit what names you think we should call the Consumer Product Safety Site Park. But yeah, I heard there might be a community garden there. So that would definitely make it my favorite.
Where can people find that thing to suggest a name for the park? How can they get there?
I got it in my In Gaithersburg weekly newsletter, which you can subscribe to on the website, gaithersburgmd.gov.
So
Awesome.
Jeanette, just a couple of things. My sources are telling me that we have 25 parks, and that my colleague Mike Sesmo wants to remind everyone that as Luis alluded to before, virtually every resident in the city is within a quarter-mile walk of one park or another. You mentioned Seneca Creek State Park. I'll put one more plug for Parks and Rec because Winter Lights is happening right now, and it is the perfect socially distanced activity. I took my family through there the other night. It's wonderful. There's new displays, and it's a lovely time. So
yeah, that's true. I think it's literally open right now. I just hope no one's driving through it and watching this panel discussion at the same time. Not the best way to celebrate your holiday. My sources are telling me there's 27 parks in Gaithersburg, so we have a fact-checking problem here. But certainly there are parks, and people should visit them. All right. I'm going to come back to Luis again for a question about parks. What are the positive and negative impacts on our parks due to the increased use during the pandemic? What's good and bad about this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So start off with the negative aspects so we can be solution oriented in a way. I think that I should say, more people coming out is great. On the one hand, it does sometimes lead to kind of more damage being done to the natural environment. If people aren't as acquainted to being out there, just the more people you have out, the probability of damage, whether intentional or not, is going to go up. And then obviously because of our situation in COVID, it can make it tricky when we're trying to social distance and there's a lot of people out on the trails. I found this out the hard way. It was not in Gaithersburg, but I went to the Billy Goat Trail. I thought I was getting there early. That's down on the Potomac River. I thought I was getting there early on a Saturday morning. It was like 8 o'clock. It was already jam packed and there was a ton of people everywhere. So while it's great that so many people are getting out, again, those two things, it's harder to social distance. It's also, there's going to be a little more damage to the environment, natural environment when you go out there. As far as good things, again, just people getting out is great and getting acquainted. And you know what, Jeanette, can you do me a favor? I think I missed a part of the question. Can you repeat it for me real quick?
Question is positive and negative impacts on parks due to increased use, increased visiting while
Right.
people are trying to get outside during the pandemic.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Right. So again, just people, I think more people seeing that this is an opportunity of how to spend their time. And it's healthy for, as Anna said, for the mind and spirit to be out there and to hear nature sounds really does something. I'm pretty sure, they're definitely fact checkers, but I'm pretty sure there's science behind that as well that I've read about. And then, physically, it's good exercise. But again, for me, I'm really big on, that's why I keep reiterating it. I think it's great that more people are getting out so that this connection that I think is so key can be made or hopefully is being made more. So
Yeah, definitely there's lots of science that says that when you take a walk in nature, it's good for you in ways beyond the benefits of exercise.
Yeah.
There's something extra that comes from nature. So here's a really interesting question. And Deb, I'm curious what you think about this. During the pandemic, we've been hearing that there's less air pollution, partly because people are not commuting as much. There's not pollution from cars. But when the pandemic is over and everybody takes off their mask and takes a big breath of unfiltered air, will we notice pollution that we didn't notice while we were all wearing masks?
I think that is something that we're all very interested in seeing how it turns out. So there are some areas of the country that have seen these very dramatic, visible changes in the amount of pollution that they can see as a result of reduced emissions. But we've already had some pretty good air quality. So I don't know if it'll be a dramatic difference, especially for the people who have been getting out into nature more and hiking more mountains and breathing in that fresh air when they're 6 feet apart without their masks on. But really our measure for how much better the air quality has been the number of air quality days that have not been red or yellow. And that's what's been significantly reduced. So we've already been feeling it and we know what that feels like. It's just we should see it more, if that makes sense.
I'm going to sneak in one more of my questions here. In the segment in the film about self-driving cars, we saw how we could have a more resilient food system, healthier food, lower emissions from food production, and a stronger connection with nature if we started growing food in population centers, like on rooftops or in disused parking lots. Mayor Judd, what's blocking us from doing this in Gaithersburg?
Well, it's not me. I'm just playing. There used to be a community garden in Kentlands, and it was widely used and enjoyed by the community. But ironically, the trees around the community garden matured, and the shade they threw off rendered the garden basically unusable. So it was taken out of commission. But I will note that the park that Deb mentioned before that we're planning is in the planning process for what it's at the site of the former Consumer Product Safety Commission. So we refer to it as Consumer Product Safety Commission Park, and hopefully we'll come up with a better name than that. That the plans for that park include a community garden, and there's also a small fruit tree orchard that's planned for next to the community garden. So that's kind of exciting because we don't have something like that. When it comes to increasing green space and doing things like community gardens, the challenge isn't with the mayor and council and leadership and city staff. The challenge is really finding effective places where you can put them. So, for example, like you might drive by Lake Forest Mall and think to yourself, as I'm sure we've all done this, about how great it would be to take some of that giant underutilized sea of parking and turn it into, a great green space or community garden, or just, plant some grass and trees. The problem is the city doesn't own that property. It's not under our control. And so oftentimes the best thing we can do is sort of be on the lookout for opportunities where we can do something. We certainly have requirements with new developments that they incorporate green space into their plans. And we take it very seriously. But otherwise, with things like self-driving cars and microgrids and urban food production, I think our main goal is to make sure that our own laws and policies and rules and regulations are not standing in the way of progress. And, that's why we have you guys in the committee and Deb to help advise us.
Yeah. How can people sign up for a community garden plot? Where can they find out more about that?
Deb, I'm going to turn that one over to you. I don't think we're at that point yet, but go ahead, Deb.
Yeah, we're not quite there yet. We did have an awesome team in Parks and Rec present to the Environmental Affairs Committee about their plans for the park and for the garden and some of the logistics that they have. But since the park doesn't have an opening date, I don't believe there's a sign up for the garden yet.
Okay. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of Mayor Judd's comment, because that's a great segue to another question we have. And I'm going to throw this out there for whoever might know the answer. How can you get some solar energy for your house if you have trees?
I'd love to answer that question because it's my favorite thing to tell people, because I also can't have solar panels on my house because of trees. There is community aggregate solar. So you can pay to have your own solar panels just somewhere else. And so I kind of mentioned earlier, Solar United Neighbors. And so they do also, if they determine that your house is not an ideal location for solar panels, they'll put you in a group with other people so you can purchase solar panels to put on some business's roof or somewhere else. And so maybe the solar panels aren't feeding your power line directly. You'll get the benefits of having installed the solar based on the generation from that particular panel. So there's always options to do things if you want to kind of get creative with where you put them. And it's really about cleaning up the overall grid in general. That is my main drive for solar and why I opted for wind energy, but solar is a good option too.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So we've got a couple of questions about how can people find volunteer opportunities with local environmental organizations, or what environmental programs are there in Gaithersburg that people could get involved in? And we're going to answer those in just a minute. But first, I'm going to throw it out there for whoever wants to jump in. Do you have a favorite program or organization that you want to plug that people should look into?
Yeah, Muddy Branch Alliance.
That's a great one.
Tell us about it, Luis.
Yeah, sure. That was a tricky one for me. I was like, yeah, I guess it's the one that I'm the president of. Yeah, so, Muddy Branch Alliance, you can, we are, again, kind of stewards of the Muddy Branch Trail. And, it's kind of tricky now with COVID as far as our volunteer opportunities. We are trying to figure out kind of, ways that we can encourage and possibly organize events, even given kind of, social distancing. But again, we do trash pickups. We do invasive removals. We have a great program called Lands Green, Waters Clean, where we help kind of teach people about putting indigenous native plants into their yards and spaces. So, if you are interested in being a part of that, you can either email me at lewis.furman at muddybranch.org, or you can email the Muddy Branch. And I really should know this off the top of my head. I'm gonna get it in the chat what the exact email is. I'm still kind of the new president.
What's the website?
And you can go to the website. Thank you, Jeanette.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
What?
That is, I believe it's just muddybranchAlliance.org. So we can put that in the chat as well.
Great, thank you.
Can I just interject one thing? I'm curious, Anna, is there anything going on I understand Quince Orchard is all happening virtually at the moment, but is there any sort of organizational things you guys are working on there?
Yeah, so we have an environmental club, and we actually do, we did a partnership with a cleanup with the Muddy Branch Alliance. So we're trying to find ways to do socially distanced activities that will help the environment, whether that's promoting how to help the environment, or going out and doing trash cleanups, or educating the community. So many schools that I know of have an environmental club, and hopefully, I know Quince Orchard is, but hopefully those clubs are doing what they can during this virtual setting to go out there and promote activism for the environment.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, great. Definitely there are still opportunities for people of all ages to get involved. Deb, you have one more comment for us?
Yeah, I'd just like to add that even if you're a little nervous about getting involved with some new people in amidst of this current health crisis, the city can support you. We do loan out trash picker-uppers. I don't know if there's a better word for them. Exactly. I think y'all know what I'm talking about. Not the ones with the spear, but the picker-uppers. And trash bags and gloves. So you can request them, pick them up, collect any trash that you find, and you'll leave it in a designated spot that will come pick up for you later. And then we'll sanitize all of the equipment when it's returned to us. So if you are interested in doing that, that is available on the city's website, gaithersburgmd.gov. If you search environment and then volunteer opportunities, there's an active form there if you want to get involved.
Yeah, that's a really great program and an easy way that people can make a difference while social distancing.
Real quick, Jeanette, I just needed to make a correction. It's not muddybranchAlliance.org, it's just muddybranch.org.
Okay.
And on there you can sign up to join as a member and receive our monthly newsletter and see what else we have going on as well.
Mm-hmm. All kinds of great resources on that website. All right, so that is just about all the time we have for this evening. I am so glad we were able to have this discussion tonight. Experts say the most important thing you can do for the environment is talk to people about it. Then work together with others in your community to create solutions. For all our viewers, a link is coming up in the chat right now. Check that out for a short article that includes a list of environmental organizations and programs here in